Hello everyone. So in this video we'll be covering a bunch of programs, the algorithms, and we'll be mainly focusing on MCQ based questions that might be asked. So two types of questions can be asked in MCQ. One is a theoretical question and the other would be like a numerical question. Simply the input would be given that the question program algorithm will take and the suggested outcome that you have to take in the options. So like the first algorithm is simple C. So we have to understand the problem statement in order to get the MCQ answer ticked correctly. So like in this question, a user will be given n value and then we have to take all the prime numbers that come under n. So supposingly we give n is equal to 10. So we'll have of course 2, 5 and 7 in the answer. So this would be a probable answer to tick in the MCQ. Now coming from the algorithm point of view, what MCQs could be asked. So like this is a numerical that could be asked. Next is like you can be asked like what is the time complexity, space complexity. So like the time complexity is n log of n, okay, and the space complexity is n because we're creating a boolean array of size n. So the last index will be 9 if like the n is equal to 10 over here in this example. So this would be asked. Next, based on the algorithm, that is the code, they can ask you, supposingly they give you some variable name like sieve underscore size, and they ask in the MCQ what is the role of sieve underscore size in the program, in this algorithm. So like as the name suggests, like whenever we are creating an algorithm, so we take the variables such that the name itself suggests its work. So over here sieve underscore size is suggesting that it's the storing the size of the sieve, that is the boolean array. So the outcome for this point of view will be 10, right? So next question that could be asked is like what is a probable outcome if a value n is given. So the answer is bunch of prime numbers up to n, but note the point over here, not including n. Sorry for the writing, but it's clear for you. So now we'll see the next probable MCQ that can be asked. So like now I will keep on continuing one by one the algorithms, and please be with catch up the pace with me. I'll be a little fast, but manage it. So the two MCQs that we have discussed is about the sieve size and then what is the outcome of this algorithm. What else they might ask? Good question. So like they may compare it with its brothers. So the brothers are segmented sieve. So what is segmented sieve? As the name suggests, there will be multiple segments. So like in this question, we will be given two values, supposing n and m. So n is equal to like 10 and m is equal to 20. So in the range of n and m, we have to tell what all prime numbers can come. So there can be two questions asked. One is tell the prime numbers. So like 11 would be here, 13 would be here, and like 17 would be here, 19 would be here. So these would be there. Okay. Now next question is number of prime numbers. So like 11, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, like 4 are. So next outcome could be 4. So they can ask you to take 11, 13, 17, 19, or they can ask you to take 4 over here. Next what they can do, supposingly I have given you 10 to 20. So they might ask what is the segment size if one segment is supposingly of size 2. So over here up to 10 to 20, how many segments of size 2 can be made? Yes, you are right, 5 segments can be made because 5 into 2 is equal to 10. So another example, if I take like 1000 to 2000 is the range and one segment is size 100. Okay, so how many segments can be made? Perfect, you got it right. 10 segments can be made because 100 into 10 is 1000 and the range would be covered. Again note, there could be including the n and m and they could be not including n and m. Both could be there, but strictly the algorithm configures that we are not considering the boundaries. Okay, nice. So this could be asked, and what else could be asked? Yes, that's all they can ask you. Coming to the next incremental sieve. So this is an upgradation of the simple sieve only. Just what we do over here, we create a boolean array in the simple sieve. So what we'll do over here in simple sieve, actually the boolean array considers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, like all the indices up to a variable n is equal to 10, so 9 over here. So it also considers the even numbers. And note the point, the only prime number that is even is only 2. So why we need to consider 4, 8 again and again? if we are sure that only the prime number that is even is only 2 and rest are all odd numbers that are prime. So that's all we can ask in incremental sieve. So the point over here is like we'll create an array list. Like we'll create an array list of integers, supposingly odd. Now what is the role of this odd? It will be storing all the values up to n, but only the odd numbers. So like if n is equal to 10, then this array list might consider only like after 2, so 3, 5, 7, 9. And then what's the prime number? 3 is a prime number, 5 is a prime number, and rest 7 and 9 are not. So in this array list also we will be considering the same logic that we will be using in simple sieve, that is we'll be removing all the multiples of the first prime number that we find. So like in this case 3 is a prime number, so its multiple 9 would be king. So here we get to another MCQ, that is if we get a prime number p, then what is the next number that we are going to remove in the boolean array or any simple sieve algorithm, that is p square. Yes, you are right, 3 is in there, so the p square is 9, so that is there. Then what else they can ask? So this could be there from an algorithm point of view. That's all the incremental sieve. And the main MCQ that could be asked is what is the role of incremental sieve and segmented sieve, simple sieve. So in simple sieve we'll create a boolean array, we'll consider all numbers like from if n is equal to 10, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 9, and we'll be finding the prime numbers and then removing its multiples. In segmented sieve we'll be given a range of numbers, we have to tell the prime numbers in that range. And in incremental sieve we'll simply do one updation, that we'll consider only the odd numbers from 3 to number, and only prime number that is known to us is 2. So that's all. Let's go to next. So yes, Euler-Phi is a very good question. So over here, this question, so Euler-Phi is a very good question. So in this a very good numerical could be asked, that is phi of n. So we'll see a general formula that is applicable to every. So phi of n is, the answer is n minus 1 if prime, n is prime over here. So like if n is given 5, so the answer will be 4. 7, the answer will be 6. Now if n is equal to pq, then p minus 1, q minus 1. Now what is pq? Supposingly n is equal to 35. So we can write 7 into 5, 2 prime numbers p and q, and then we can apply the same above formula. So we'll get 6 into 4, and the answer is 24. Now supposingly this is not the scenario, so we have to come to a general formula. So what is the general formula? N multiplied by 1 minus 1 by p1 multiplied by 1 minus 1 by p2, and so on. So supposingly we take an example of 140. So this is given, and we have to find phi of 140, Euler-Phi of 140. That is number of co-primes until 140. So number of co-primes with 140. So the answer will be n over here 140, and then 1 minus 1 by p1. So we need to find what is p1, p2. So we have to do the prime factorization. So 140 can be written as 7 into 20, then 20 can be written as 5 into 4, and this can be written as 2 into 2. So 7 into 5 into 2 power 2. So the prime numbers over here is p1, p2, p3. If you put these values in this formula, so we will simply do 1 minus 1 by 7, 1 minus 1 by 5, and 1 minus 1 by 2. So you will get the probable answer that you have to take in MCQ. So that's all in Euler-Phi. And the next question that could be asked is find the Euler-Phi of 140, some number like this. Or next they can ask what is the purpose of Euler-Phi, is to find number of co-primes, okay, with the number n. Next they can ask you find the sum of co-primes with this number. So over here you have to manually solve. So like 140 and 1 co-prime. Co-prime means those numbers, those pairs a comma b whose only prime factor is 1. shareable prime factor. Such. So this could be done. Simple. Next we will go to next Chinese remainder theorem. So this you might have studied in previous courses of maths over here, also known as CRT. So over here congruous relations will be given like x1 is equal to 10 mod 5, x2 is equal to 12 mod 5, and x3 is equal to 10 mod 2. Now we have to tell a number n that will satisfy all three relations. So this is just a random example that I have taken. It might not give a solution or it might give also, but like the logic is similar, you might solve it very simple. So that is the MCQ that would be asked with Chinese remainder theorem. That's all. Stoichiometric number. So over here we have to consider that after 180-degree rotation, does the number remain same? So like 1 is there. If you rotate it, so it's again 1. Next 2 is there. If you rotate it, no, it's not 2 again. Similarly we'll check, and then next number we'll get 6. 6 becomes 9. 9 becomes 6. 8 becomes 8. So that is the rule over here. Supposing an example is given 8, 8, 8. So we have to check each and every digit that if it's giving one of these digits that I have mentioned over here. So yes, this is called a stoichiometric number. Supposingly 858. No, this is not because of number 5. Supposingly 689. Yes, this is stoichiometric because 6 and 9 are each other's answer and 8 is itself answer because it's in the middle. So like the concept we use in palindrome, we check the corners if they are equal or not. Then we check the next corners if they are equal or not. So same concept we have to use in stoichiometric number, that if the corner, then the next corners, are they each other's answer? That is 180-degree rotation. Are they each other? So the probable numbers that we'll be using is 1, then 6, 9, 8 and 0. 0 itself is 0. So over here 1 will be 1, 6 will become 9, 9 will become 6, 8 will be 8, 0 will be 0. So that is the logic we have to use. So the probable MCQs that we might ask is, they might give a number n and they say if it is a stoichiometric number or not. Or they might give a range n comma m and we have to ask to tick options considering a list of numbers that are stoichiometric. Okay. Or they might give like supposingly n is equal to 1. So what is the list? So answer is 0, 1, 8. If n is equal to 2, so answer is 11, 88, 69, 96. So that's all they can ask over here. Binary palindrome is like a number 5 is given supposedly. So the binary number representation is 101, and if we reverse it, then it's still 1, 0 and 1. So both are equal. That means it is a binary palindrome. Supposedly 9 is given. So 9's binary palindrome binary representation is 1001 because it's 8421 logic. You might remember in the previous courses we have done this thing. So if we reverse it, again we reverse it. So it's same 1001. So it is also. Supposedly we take a number like 10 is there. So it will be 8. So if we reverse it, it will be 0, 1, 0, 1. So are they equal? No, they are not equal. So this is not a binary palindrome. The concept of binary plus palindrome is combined to get binary palindrome. So we have to convert a number into binary and then check if it's palindrome or not. That number is called a binary palindrome. So that could be asked. Let's check next. Booth's algorithm. So this is an algorithm that we have been studying in COA. So you may refer any video of this, and basically the question they might ask is like in this algorithm some variables a, q, q minus 1, m, these being used. So they might ask after n iterations, what value is in a, what value is in q, what value is in q minus 1. So that you have to study and practice. So I am giving you a question, you might practice that. Supposedly 5 cross minus 4 is asked, and they also specify bit size. So you have to take 4 bits, like 5 will be 0, 1, 0, 1, and this will be like 4 is like 1 0 0 this, but over here it's negative, so what we'll do, we'll take 2's complement of this, so it will be 1 1 0 0, right? And now they might ask, after, supposingly after second iteration, what will the value in a q minus 1, that you have to take. So you can practice this, you can refer any of the videos based on COA scores. So that is over here. Clock swap is also a very good algorithm, or in general we can say rotating AND. So supposingly 2 4 5 6 9 7, this is an array given to us, okay? So, and we have been given k is equal to 3, that is we have to do 3 times rotation, and in this algorithm usually we do left to right, that is we'll pick an element from here and put it at the end, then pick next element from here and put it at the end. So if like k is equal to 3, so what will be the working? First the array will become 4 5 6 9 7, and then 2 will come over here, okay? Note 2 has come over here. This was the first iteration. When now k has reduced and now it becomes 2. So after third iteration, what will happen? Simple, we can go with this logic that the first 3 elements will go at the end. So simply we'll get 6 9 7 in the start, and then we'll get 2, next we can get 4, next we can get 5, right? Perfect. So now the question can be, what is the initial element, or what is the first element? So answer is 6. Or what is the last element? Answer is 5. So what you can notice after this is that 2 blocks have been considered over here, first and second. So they can also ask, what all elements are there in block 1, what all elements are there in block 2. So this could be asked, right? Perfect. Euclid's algorithm. So this algorithm is usually given to find the GCD. Supposedly 5 and 20 are there, so GCD will be, so 5 will be the answer, greatest common divisor, okay? So in this algorithm basically we use recursion, and the time complexity is the major MCQ that we can ask, is that log of minimum of a comma b. So if like this is a, this is b, so the answer will be, based on 5 the time complexity would be appearing, and the space complexity will be 1. So I'll be sharing a page with the time complexity and space complexity at the end, and you can refer that, okay? So we'll see next Kravtsov algorithm. So in this, the first point is the algorithm that we use is like divide and conquer logic, okay? Next is, there is a recursive function, that is t of n is equal to 3 times t of n by 2 plus big O of n, okay? Next they might give you a question, supposedly 5 into 4, and then they might ask you what is the answer. So this anybody can do, simply 20 is the answer that you have to take, okay? Next they can ask you what is being done in this algorithm. So like any number is there, supposedly 25 is there, 35 is there. So what we do, we break the number into parts. So like it will be broken. So A, B, C, D would be there. Then this would be done recursively. So like in each step we'll be breaking, and then at the end we'll apply a formula, that is result. This will store the answer. So it will be AC, okay? AC into 10 to the power m. What is m? M is number of bits in both of the numbers, maximum. So like both are of size 2 only, so answer will be 2 only over here. So m will be 2 digits, plus a plus c, b plus d, minus ac minus bd into 10 power m by 2, okay? And last plus bd, okay? This would be there. Right. So this formula is very important, and MCQ would be surely asked by this concept. So these are the 3 points that you have to note, could be asked, okay? longest sequence of ones after a flip. So the concept is very clear. You have been given a binary representation, a sequence of ones and zeros, like 1 0 1 0 1 1 0 0 1, and like a value of k is given like 2. That is at most you can flip 2 bits and you have to get maximum number of ones consecutively. So if I flip this one and this one, so like the answer will be 1 2 3 4 5 6 6. 6 would be the answer. Supposingly I flip these two, so 1 2 3 4 5, so consecutively 5 would come. So that is how we have to get the maximum answer. So over here 6 will be the answer, and what will be the string after doing? It will be 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 2 3 4 5 6 0 0 1. So you can be asked n, the output after doing maximum flips of size 2, that is k over here, and then you have to take the string also, that is after modification. After modification, how does the change string of zeros and 1 look like? So that could be asked over here. Maximum product subarray is like a subarray you have to find. So an array is given like 1 minus 1 0 4 8 2 minus 2 and 1, that is given. Now you have to tell a subarray that has a maximum product. So like now the question is like, what does a subarray means? Consecutive numbers that are there. So like if we take 1 and minus 1 in continuous manner, so output will be minus 1, product is minus 1. So let's see if this is a maximum product or not. If we take 1 minus 1 and 0, this will become 0. So whenever a 0 is occurring, so we'll break and make a sub problem over here. So like 0 won't be considered in the next ratios. So like 4 2 2 minus 2 1. Supposedly we'll take 4 8 2. Okay, positive is good. As we come to minus 2, it will become negative. It will become less than 0. So this will not be a maximum product. And when we'll include 1, still it's not. So if we have supposedly one more negative number over here like this, so 2 negatives will make positive. So we have to, these are the points we have to consider while finding the maximum product. Supposedly this is the question: 1 minus 1 4 8 minus 2 3 1. So the answer is, taking all these elements we'll get the maximum, because one negative goes here, one negative goes here, so it will become positive answer. So the question can be number of elements coming in the subarray that you have to take, or the output, that is the product you have to take. So that would be considered over here. Let's see the next. Swapping nibbles. So what does a nibble mean? So like if there is a byte, okay, so byte has 8 bits, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. And what do you mean by nibble? Nibble means 4 bits. So if like a number C3 is given, and after applying this algorithm, it will become 3C. That's more than sufficient we can ask. And what else we can ask is like the algorithm we are using. So we are using bit manipulation over here, and because of bit manipulation, the time is also very fast, the space is also very less. So the time complexity is 1 and the space complexity is also 1 used over here. That's make this algorithm very popular. Leaders of an array. This is also a very good question. So an array would be given, supposedly 6 9 9 8 5 0 1. Now we have to tell the leaders in this array. What do you mean by leaders? The elements that are greater than itself on its left. So first point to note is that the leftmost element is always a leader. So 1 is a leader. Then moving towards the left, we have to find the next element that is greater than 1. So 0, no, 5, yes. So next answer will be 5. And it can be equal also. So next will be 8, yes. Greater than 8 is 9, yes. 9 equal to 9, yes. 6, no. So the output will be 9 9 8 5 1. So that is the concept of linear array. We have to start from the cornermost element, and then we have to check elements that are greater than or equal to itself on its left side. That's how we do this. Lexicographically, first palindrome. So like if a string is given A, B, B, C, C, D. So we have to tell a palindromic string made using these characters, that is lexicographically first. That means it appears first in the dictionary order. So the outcome will be like D is odd, so we'll put it in the center, and to be coming in lexicographical order, we'll put small elements. Like if A is over here, A has to come over here, B, then B, C, and then C. So this could be an answer. So what questions could be asked? One is to tick the palindrome string coming first in the dictionary. Next is like if we have more than one odd counts characters. Supposedly D and E is also here. So D also has a frequency of 1, E also has a frequency of 1. So in this case, we can't find a lexicography first palindromic substring. Palindromic string. Okay, not substring. So that's the point. So note the point, number of elements whose frequency is odd, and that should become in the middle because a tone has a mirror image, so that should be equal to 1. It cannot be more than 1. Okay, so if I remove E from here, then I can get an answer, but if I add just one element E and it is also ones, then we cannot find. And if I add two E's over here, then we can again find a first palindrome over here. Majority element, the concept is very clear that the length of the array by 2. So elements whose frequency is greater than length by 2 is called a majority element. Supposedly 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3. These are the elements. So what is the length? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 is there, then 6 by 2, 3 is there. Then element which is greater than 3, there is no element. So we'll land up with no majority element. Now in case I add one more 2 over here. Okay, now we have 8 elements. Eight elements, 8 by 2, so we'll get 4 over here. So greater than 4 frequency, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, still not there. So it's clear you are sure of the algorithm now. 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Supposedly this is an example. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 elements, 9 by 2, 4.5, 5. And in this case, yes, we got an output, that is. So 2 is the majority element. And there can't be more than one majority elements in an array according to this algorithm. So this can be considered. Maximum equilibrium sum is there. So concept is very simple, that from the left and from the right, if we are at an index element, so the sum on the left and the sum on the right should be equal, then this point is the equilibrium point. Okay, again simpler, like the previous questions we have discussed. You have been given an array and then some elements are over here, supposedly 1, 2, so on. Then they will ask the element which is the equilibrium point. Or in this question we have another thing, that is maximum equilibrium sum. So supposedly this is the point where equilibrium is coming, this is the point where equilibrium is reaching, another thing, this is the point where and this is the maximum one. So this is the answer we have to report. Okay, hourglass. So how does an hourglass look like? It looks like this, or like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, this type. So we will be given a matrix and we have to find number of hourglasses, next maximum sum of these hourglasses, okay, and next minimum size of the matrix M cross N, so that we can have at least one hourglass. So let's answer them. So supposedly we have an array of size 3 cross 3. So can we make an hourglass of this structure? Yes, we can make. 7 elements can come over here. But if I take 2 cross 2, no, we cannot make. That means M and N, then M should be less than 3 and N should be less than 3, then we cannot do. So it should be greater than or equal to 3, both M and N, then only we can find at least one hourglass. Okay, so if we have been asked, if supposedly M is equal to 5 n is equal to 5. Okay, then we have been asked how many hourglass can be found. So the formula is simple, m minus 2 into n minus 2. That means rows minus 2 into columns minus 2. So it will be 3 cross 3, that is 9 hourglass can be found. So that answers are next. And then out of those 9, which is the maximum hourglass, that we have to report over here. Okay, selection sort. So this is a very good sorting algorithm of time complexity n square and space of size n, because we'll be creating another, no, I'm sorry, we won't be doing that. Time complexity will 1 only because we are doing in place sorting. What we are doing? In place sorting over here. Okay, and just a hint, if these questions come in your exam, you can simply do arrays dot sort of ARR and you can print the elements. This will work. No need to memorize the code or understand the code or waste your time over here. Okay, nice, good to go. Quick sort. Similarly, as we discussed previously, we can use arrays and sort, but over here what the logic is, we use a pivot concept. An element pivot is taken. Supposingly there is an array and there is an element 7 over here. Question says take pivot as 7 and state what will be the outcome after first partition. That is, we'll be creating a function partition that will be partitioning the array continuously until the array becomes of single size with context to an element pivot. So supposingly question is 5, 7, 9, 10, 7, 7, 3, 0. So after one partition using pivot as 7, so we might get answer as, like, all the elements on the left of the pivot element have to be less than or equal to 7. Okay, so 5 would come, then next 3 would come, 0 would come. Okay, then 9, 10, 1 more 7 is it? Yes. So this is after one partition. The array will look like this. This could be asked and we have to take this. Okay, weighted substring. So over here a substring would be given like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. All characters are to be small. Okay, small characters, lowercase. And considering the ASCII values, we have to find the weights. That is, A will be considered as 1, okay, B as 2, C as 3. So whenever we are taking a substring like A, B, C, so what is the weight? What is the sum over here? 1 plus 2 plus 3. So this makes up 3, 4, 5, 6. So two questions could be asked. Total substrings that have a sum equal to k, at least k, okay, at least k, or at most k, okay, at most k. So that you have to solve and then find. The concept is simple. Whenever you are taking a substring, like if this is a substring and you are taking this as the substring, so for each character you have to use a value as the weight, and that's simple. A as 1, Z as 26, and so on. Or like this could be mentioned in the question with a string P with 26 values, and that you have to use in place of the weights for A, B, C, D, and solve the question. Okay, move hyphens to beginning. So it's very simple. A string would be given over here and it might have some hyphens in between, so you have to return the answer which have the hyphens in the beginning, and then rest of the string remains the same. Okay, as state, as anything, simple. Manneka's algorithm or longest palindromic substring. So here I won't tell you what the Manneka's algorithm do, but we will directly go longest palindrome substring. So if any substring is given like this, we won't take an example, let's go generic. So if substring is this, supposingly this area is a palindrome, so it's visible, and this area is also palindrome, this area is also palindrome, but this is the longest, right, longest one, so we'll report this as the answer. To solve, we have a DP approach of 2D size and 1D size also, and using the concept of dynamic programming we can solve it using n square and n prob also. So Manneka's algorithm uses this, and this is the one you can prepare for the exam or any competitive coding exam. That would be very easy. So must watch a video for this algorithm. Okay. Joe's first very important one. Over here, supposingly n is equal to 14 is given and k is equal to 2 is given. So in this problem, basically 14 people are standing in a circle, and every kth element or every kth person is being killed, okay, one after the other, and at the end one person is left, and he is called the winner, or like he has to kill himself. So we have to find the position where a person could stand and won't be killed by another person. So in this problem 14 is given, so we'll assign numbers 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14. Now every second element is killed, so 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14. Next 15 16 17 18 19 20 21 22 23 24 25 26, and yes, 13 is the winner. So the answer that we have to take is 13. Maybe the option has 12 also, take 13, but in case if option 13 is not there, then take answer. It will be either the answer that you get from this point of view, taking 1 as the first element, or if the answer key is set based on 0 as the first element, then you will get 1 less than taking the answer from 1. So that is the thing. If both 13 and 12 are given, then 13 is the best answer. But if only 12 is given and other numbers are given, then that means they have considered 0 as the first element. That's why they are getting 1 less number. So that's over here. Activity selection. So like if a start array is given, starting times, finish array is given, finishing times. So like over here, let's take 10, 20, 30. Simple. And over here we say like 10 to 15 is the first, then this is 22, like 50, and this is 30 to 40. Now what all activities that we can select? So the first activity is confirmed that we can select. That means 10 to 15 will be there, so we'll get 0 in the answer array list. Then we have to check the next start, is it greater than or equal to previous finish. Okay, previous finish. So over here 15, 20 is of course greater than or equal to, so it is greater than 15, so 20 to 50 will come. Okay, now 30, it is less than the previous, that is 50 over here, so we will not take and we'll report this as the answer. So like 2 could be given an option, number of elements, number of activities, or like 0 1 we have to take. Okay, unique sorted permutations. So like NPR you might have studied, or NCR, we'll see next question on this. So you have to tell number of sorted permutations. So like supposingly ABC is given, so n factorial 6 is the answer. Okay, AAL is given, so like again n factorial, so we'll get 6 by 2 factorial. Okay, 6 by 2 factorial, that is 2, and then we'll get only 3 answers. So this formula would be used to solve, or like you have to tick. So using A, what all will be there? Using unique and sorted order. So first will be AAL, then ALA, and then LAA. This you have to take. So such questions should be asked from this topic. Combinations will be there, like an array given 1 2 3 4 5, and k is equal to 2, means combinations of size 2. So what all will be the answer? 1 2, 1 3, 1 4, 1 5 in sorted order. 2 3, 2 4, 2 5, 3 4, 3 5, 4 5. That's all. Okay. Maze solving, like a matrix would be given of supposingly size 4 cross 4 with elements 0 and 1. So wherever 1 is there, that means you can go through those positions, or 0 is there, that means you cannot. And this could be interchange also. So let's take a sample example. So the answer will be 1, then 1, then this way, this way, this way, this way. What's the motive? That we have to start from this index, this cell, and you have to reach at this cell. So an input matrix will be given, and you have to take an output matrix with places where we can move as 1 and others as 0. Okay, so that is the maze solving. Then n queen is there. So whenever a queen is put on a chessboard, okay, so how many movements it has? It can move all in horizontal, all in vertical, or all in diagonal. So yes, it has 3 directions. Note over here, directions and options, 2 different things. Supposing your queen is there in the center, so it has 8 directions. Yes, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 as the answer. So remember, over here options were 8, and over here we are talking about directions, or we can say movements. So based on the rules of chess, we can say 3 is the answer. Okay, then next is, what is the minimum n that will be satisfied and we are able to put n queens on an n cross n board? N queens on an n cross n board. So minimum is 1 over here, like 1 cross 1 board is there. So yes, we can put a queen. Next, 2 cross 2, no, we cannot. So the next minimum is 4, 5, and so on. So either a board of size 1 cross 1 or greater than or equal to 4, then only we can put n queens on an n cross n board. Okay, let's see next. Huffman coding is there. So these are very important questions. Okay, so again I'll be sharing a sheet for this purpose also. You can see that for easier reference. I'll simply tell you a simple questions over here. For numerical point of view, you can see the sheets which I'll share. So they can ask you, do we use a priority queue? Yes, we use a priority queue over here. Okay. Next, what's the purpose of Huffman coding? To compress message length. Okay. 2 methods are there. One is fixed variable method and one is variable size. So these 2 numericals are there, and then you have to answer number of bits after compressing. Okay, that you have to answer this. Next, Kruskal algorithm there. So over here, minimum spanning tree concept is there. If some graph is given, like this, and then weights are also given, 8, 20, 5, 2, 1, 7. So you have to tell a probable answer with edges that will form a minimum spanning tree. So you can see a reference video for this, and you'll be able to solve the question asked. Graph coloring, chromatic number would be asked. What will be asked? Chromatic number. That is minimum number of colors that you have to use such that the adjacent vertices does not share the same color. Okay, so you can practice a numerical on this topic. Like if we have a question like this, so supposing we put green over here, then we can't put green over here, here or here. We put red over here, we can't put red over here, but we can put red over here also. Now if we have red here, we can put green here. Yes, we can put green here, but we can't put green and we can't put red over here. We can put blue over here. We can put red, blue or green. So I'll put yellow over here, and then 4 is the answer. That is red, green, blue, yellow. Okay. Hamiltonian cycle. So we have to cover each vertex once only and come back to the start. This cycle covered in a graph is called Hamiltonian cycle, and similarly if we don't come back to the start, okay, and we cover each vertex at least one, then it is called Hamiltonian path. One stop rule or needs to a problem. So over here we are considering about the horse in chess. So what the horse has to do, he moves only in L-shaped direction, right? L-shaped direction. Now, if a horse is in n cross n board, so can he travel? Can he have a tour of each cell at least once and cover complete n cross n board? So only one question that could be asked is minimum n required, that is 5 cross 5. Okay. Okay, that's all. Thank you.